I've actually been dreading making this part about the Anima Animus, partly because it's such a difficult part, but also because in so many ways it hits home in places that just brings a lot of pain. It is a projection of the sort of inner archetype structure of your need in the opposite sex. There's so many examples, but basically, the first time you really, really, really love someone, it is because you have found a person that is necessary for your individuation. And whether or not it is true love or whatever doesn't matter, but the fact is that there will be some sort of a difference between who that person really is and the anima or your inner sort of projection that you place upon them. And this will wake you up like Trinity does with Neo, and it might crush you. Either way, it is a necessary part of individuation. So here we go. Trinity doesn't enter the story like a love interest, more like a rupture, like the first crack in a life that is too small. And the movie tells you that before, when Neo is at his computer, half awake, getting haunted by the words, "Wake up, Neo," and then it's, follow the white rabbit. And by the way, speaking of the white rabbit, Alice in Wonderland is perhaps the greatest movie ever made about the psyche slash matrix slash labyrinth, and I intentionally left it out of the individuation series because it needs its own series. So Neo does ending up, waking up, obviously, and following the white rabbit, because some of him has already made that decision, while his conscious mind still wants to be the good employee, the good citizen, the guy who keeps his head down. But then when Trinity appears in that club scene and it's not flirtation, it's more like a recognition, the vibe is, I know you, I've seen you before. And when she says, "You've been down this road before," it hits like a memory you didn't know you had. Because that's what a real anima moment feels like. It's not new information, it's just old truth returning. And this is super important in individuation and Jungian psychology altogether, because it is a return to old primordial truth and being able to deconstruct both your own made up identity, but also the sort of knowledge and fake constructs that we fill our heads with. The self knocking from inside the walls. The same way Nala doesn't debate Simba's philosophy. She just shows up and shatters Hakuna Matata with one sentence. Your avoidance is costing lives. Come home. And Trinity does the same thing with Neo. She pulls him out of the comfort simulation and into the ugly, real, terrifying world where you actually have to become someone. And notice how the extraction works in the Matrix. It's always a chase, always urgency, always answer the phone, always get to the exit. Because psychologically, that's exactly how it feels when you stop lying to yourself. It's panic, it's intensity, because the persona fights back, just like Simba fought Nala. And the system fights back, the agents show up, and still, Trinity doesn't treat Neo like some fragile guy who needs reassurance, which is, this is a huge problem in the modern dating scene, where you have guys who refuses to grow up, Peter Pan complex, and the girls that try to wake them up don't know how to, because they have never been taught sort of the old muse or inspiration way of doing these things. Trinity treats him like a man who needs initiation, and that's why she never doubts him, even when he doubts himself. She's basically carrying the future version of him in her eyes, and the point isn't Trinity is perfect. the point is, Trinity is the part of Neo that already knows, the part that won't let him keep sleeping, the part that says, I'm not here to entertain you, I'm here to wake you up. And once you see that, you can't unsee it, because you start noticing it everywhere. Every time a character shows up and pulls the hero out of the fake life and back towards the real one, that's the same symbolic function. That's Anima as a catalyst, not as a fantasy. And the moment you follow her, your life, your old life, is over. Hercules starts with a simple myth. Gods, destiny, good versus evil. Be a hero and you'll be worthy. But the moment he's on Earth, he's not a god, and he's not even a man yet. He's a kid with absurd strength and zero place to put it. So he builds a persona. And his persona has one word on it in huge letters: hero. And as we discussed in the persona video, the shadow of this is fear. The fear of not being loved if he doesn't perform, if he doesn't fulfill his role. This persona identity becomes his drug, his passport back to Olympus, his, path to becoming loved and appreciated and valued. You can see it in the training and the montage. He isn't becoming himself, he's becoming a title. He's rehearsing a role. He's basically trying to earn applause as proof that he exists. Then Meghara enters like a glitch in the myth, sort of like Trinity, but not in the same way. Meghara is actually more like the woman in the red dress, a bird with a broken wing. So what does Hercules do? Of course, he is a hero that is looking for a damsel in distress, and he tries to save her. He tries to fulfill the hero myth, because then he gets to fulfill his mission of saving her. And there's several ways of interpreting this Herculean story, but the positive ending here that is portrayed is quite different from how you can interpret it. You can see the movie as the symbolic twist, as his strength disappears because he trades it for true love, and he actually does manage to save her. But this movie is the hero myth in completion, and that is a very dangerous fantasy. This is, in a meta-looking way of it, the persona of the real thing. In reality, he trades his strength for her and is unable to sort of be the independent savior warrior. Because, and in the story it all works out. But another way of looking at it is like, what if he didn't get his strength back from trading it, and Hades, evil, wins? Because you see, in Hercules, the hero goes into the underworld and he dies symbolically, and it's framed as love. But psychologically, it's a sacrifice of the old identity. The boy who needs a hero, the guy who needs a damsel so he can feel powerful. Because that's not strength, that's dependence wearing armor. And in real life, it doesn't end like Disney. It ends like Achilles. Glorious, talented, unstoppable, and still dead because the narrative demanded it. The hero fantasy doesn't care about your long-term kingdom, it cares about the peak moment, the dramatic moment, the moment where you prove you're good, and if your whole life becomes a stage for proving you're a savior, you will eventually hand your power to someone who needs you weak so they can be needed. This is the danger of projection. You don't see the person, you see a role, you see the one I must save. And the moment you accept that role, you give up the right to just be a man building a life, because now you're acting inside a script, and the script always demands sacrifice. It is so innately tied to being a hero that it is unavoidable. No matter if you choose to give up your strength for love or ignore your mother's warnings, the hero dies in one way or another. The feminine story is no different. Beauty and the Beast is a very dangerous fantasy portrayed as a love story. Underneath all the pretty Disney lights lies the horrifying truth that trying to save a monster, trying to fix a psychopath by offering up your own lifeblood and stepping into the darkness will leave you so drained and twisted that you'll die by the light, and that will still be something you long for, just to get away from this monster that you have tried to fix. First we have the invitation, the threshold. Dracula can't just stroll into your house. You let him in, you open the door, you say yes, and the moment you do, it's not romance, it's consent to a new reality. In Bram Stoker's Dracula, Jonathan Harker goes to live with the monster. In Beauty and the Beast, it's Belle crossing into the castle and staying, accepting the rules of the house. In 50 Shades of Grey, it's the contract, the NDA vibes, the private elevator, the come see my world, and the moment you step into his space, you're on his terrain, his laws, his frames, and that's why it's addictive, because it feels like you entered a forbidden realm on purpose. So now you can't call yourself a victim. You have to call it destiny. Then we have the castle, the isolation. Dracula's power isn't just teeth, it's geography. It's distance from your village, your friends, your family, your elders, and your normal reference points. The castle is the machine that turns warnings into background noise. Belle literally leaves the village and lives inside the beast's world, and the story trains you to interpret the village as small-minded. Like the only reason anyone would object would be because they're boring, jealous, or dumb. And Christian Grey is the same pattern, but with modern architecture. Penthouse instead of castle, money instead of fog. But it's the same psychological trick. The more you are in his private world, the more his worldview becomes reality, and everyone outside starts to feel irrelevant. Then we have the charm, the trance. Dracula doesn't chase like an animal, he hypnotizes. And that is part of the vampire mythology. You see, you enter their lair, and while they are feeding off your lifeblood, you are in a bliss because they have entranced you and charmed you. And then you start to cognitively reinterpret fear as desire and their control as care, and you believe your obsession is devotion. Beauty and the Beast sanitizes this by calling it a curse, by making the predator secretly noble. And Christian Grey upgrades it with aesthetics and rules. He doesn't need literal hypnosis. He has structure, routine, contracts, rituals, a curated identity that says, I'm dangerous but controlled. You're safe because I decided you're safe. And that's exactly how the trance sells itself, not as chaos, but as safety. Then we have the bite, the mark. Dracula's bite is a signature. It is claiming you. You are different now. It's the creation of a private bond that outsiders can't understand. In Beauty and the Beast, it becomes the rose, and only you can break the curse. The story turns the mark into a sacred mission. And in Christian Grey, it's the red room symbolism, the rules, the contract, the ownership language, the private world where your body and your boundaries get rewritten into his system. And once you have the mark, you start to defend the vampire against the villagers. Because if you admit it's predatory, you have to admit you walked into it. Dracula is the romantic predator myth in its honest form. Beauty and the Beast is Dracula rewritten so the predator becomes a misunderstood prince, and 50 Shades of Grey is Dracula modernized. No fangs, just money, contracts, exclusivity, but the same old spell. Cross the threshold, leave your village, enter my world, and call your fear love. So instead, look to the Lion King and the Matrix. Be like Simba or Neo. Be like Nala or Trinity. Don't sacrifice yourself for someone else. Follow your destiny and become who you are truly meant to be, and inspire others to be their real selves instead of feeding them your life energy. Experience love that is real, not an addiction.